people in the world. It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, alongside my guy, Johnny Main. Johnny, say hello to the great people.
What it do? What it do? Week 4. Let's get it, man. Let's go.
Let's rock and let's freaking roll, people. Let's out here. Let's get it. We out here for the week 4 fantasy football show. The fantasy football show. We got the picks, the bets, the props, and the starts and sits for y'all for this week, week 4. We're officially 3 weeks into the NFL season now. Week 4 is kind of like that pivotal week where it's like some of the stuff that we've been researching for the last 2 months, 3 months, and then versus what we're seeing on the field and what's been resulting is all that now coming into a place where we feel confident enough to where some of these teams are actually actual or what we're seeing, or if there's still some underlying things that we're missing. So we'll look forward to getting into that for sure. So, Johnny, initial thoughts for week 4 as we dive into the slate. What are some things you might be seeing already? What you might be anticipating? What are some of those things?
One of the things, man, like I'm super excited to see, man, is I'm excited to see Jordan Love get back this week for sure. He was our poster boy essentially for the show. So obviously a big game there for the Packers and the Vikings. Obviously, Aaron Jones' revenge narrative. So I'm pretty excited about that game. We also got a rematch of a playoff game with the Eagles and Bucks, banged up Eagles nonetheless, and then the shootout in the desert. That's another one, and then another game that's really, really 2 games that are really intriguing as well is you have the 3-0 Bills on Sunday night and the 1-2 Ravens. Then you have the winless Cincinnati Bugles against the Carolina Panthers. So super excited, man. I think this week is definitely a very, very unique week. Got a lot of storylines inside of here, man. So I'm pretty pumped for week 4.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot to get into, so we're not gonna waste any time going into it. First game we're gonna start with is, you guessed it, the Denver Broncos going into the New York Jets. Going into MetLife Stadium. What a way to kick off this show. That's definitely fan bias, by the way. That being said, Denver Broncos coming into New York. They are 1-2 coming into the season. They are a +8 underdog going into MetLife. The Jets are a -8 home favorite, first time and God knows how long. Over and right now is 39.5. What I'm expecting from this game is literally, Fashanu starting at right tackle is going to be something that's going to be watched upon the entire game. Can Denver Broncos be able to get the rookie off his path? We saw Guyton, the rookie, on Thursday night against the Giants. Man, get manhandled by what's the rusher's name? No, I forgot. He was just Kevin
from Alabama. Anthony.
I
can't remember his last name.
But anyway, some guy on the Giants. He was getting his butt whooped on the left tackle line. It's different than the right tackle, but it's something to still kind of watch out for. Officially getting the start after having, Morgan Moses is not out. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. Jets getting still favored at 8 is obviously because of some of that, what happened with New England. They were favored in that game by 6.5 as well at home. I just think the Jets do have a great formula for success right now when it comes to, again, very balanced offense. Aaron Rodgers being able to take apart defenses with his purely dead eye accuracy, literally. Whether he's off platform, on platform, whether he's rolling outside the pocket, there's a lot of things that you got to love from Rodgers that currently. And what is this Achilles talk, right? It's like
accolades.
It's he's just been out there just performing and just doing whatever it takes to keep the offense in manageable third downs and keeping the chains moving while not only slowing down the game, which is what he loves to do now in the later parts of his career, but overall keeping the other offense off the field. I just think this is a different situation from what Denver was walking into last week, where they just shocked Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay never got off the ground in that game. I just think this is going to be a different story here when it comes to the Jets. For the Denver side of things, they really got rolling last week. Bo Nix just came out firing, led the first touchdown drive, and that just set the whole tempo up for that team in general. Denver's no slouches. Patrick Surtain gonna be playing Garrett Wilson. Like it's gonna be got to find other ways to be creative to get the ball to other guys in this offense for the Jets. For Denver, like there's a lot of moving parts. Like with Sean Payton, like he's still constantly going through rotations, and it's about to be week 4. So there's going to be a lot of different changes when it comes to different tight end sets. Like, will he just be starting, Greg Dortch or Adam Troutman out there? Will he be bringing in Josh Reynolds? Will he be bringing in, maybe even a pair of Marvin Mims potentially? There's a lot of moving parts. So it just definitely keeps the Jets defense on their toes. If I were to pick a side, I'm going to pick my guys to win. The 8 is a little strong, even though Denver going from Mountain West time to East Coast time. The only way the Jets cover this line is that they stifle Bo Nix and make him look like a rookie again, which is possible. For our side, no Jermaine Johnson, obviously out for the season defensively, but Sherwood has really stepped up linebacker wise. Quincy Williams, same thing. We obviously have a great secondary. And if Quentin Williams gets any type of pressure, no Mike McGlinchey now for Denver on the offensive line. Like, if anything, he should be chipping away at that matchup all night long in the middle. So it should be an interesting game in terms of like where the defense can just pick up from where they left off potentially from last season, because now Rodgers is leading the charge, and there's so many times where the Jets were not only playing from behind, but they had to be on their toes constantly. The game plan, the format has changed now where the Jets can kind of just pin their ears back and just go. So what do you say about this game, Johnny, overall?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the Jets, man. And as far as like the points, not messing with the points, I'll take the under. Reason why is, man, these are still 2 of the top defenses in the NFL. And one of the things the Broncos were able to do, which I think is the reason why they were able to pull off that win last week against Tampa Bay, is they're one of the better pass defenses in the NFL. So I think, to your point, like I think you're going to see a more balanced approach from the Jets today. I think you're going to see a lot of Breece Hall. Obviously, they're going to have to throw the football, the Jets are, but I just don't think that the Broncos have enough offensively to keep up with the Jets. So for me, like that's the one thing like I'm looking at right there. It's just obviously, man, it's just a better situation on the offensive side of the football for the Jets, for sure. And then like this running game that the Jets have going on with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, I think you're going to see a lot of that pretty heavy today. I think you're going to see a lot of play action, obviously, from the Jets. So give me the Jets. And I'm taking the under on this right here because I don't think, from a point standpoint, I don't think the Broncos can get there offensively. And I think the Jets probably hover somewhere around 17 to 24 points, and maybe 10 points for the Broncos. So that's me on the under right there.
That makes sense. The only thing I'll probably touch right now is, Hall anytime touchdown, but it's not an official play. It's kind of, so depending on what book it is, probably like minus 140 right now, or a little bit more juiced. So I probably wouldn't play it straight up. Probably would play it in a parlay. But in terms of other pieces of this game, it's like Conklin maybe potentially, but not too much from a betting side from this perspective. Like it's not a game that from a betting perspective probably shouldn't touch because of the weird line. I don't like touching and I don't like touching things that cover anything more than 7.5 sometimes. Don't care what the team is playing. That's just pure rookie betting logic. Like anytime you see like an 8, 9, whatever, it's kind of just a weird line to cover because you're expecting the other team to win by 2 possessions, whether it be by a touchdown or a field goal or whatever have you. I know just wax New England. I just don't want this team to feel like they can just do the same thing to a Denver team that still has some promise on both sides of the ball. I just don't want them to get snaked like the Bucs did last week.
Yeah, but the Bucs are one-dimensional, right? Like they're one-dimensional. They've been struggling in the run game all year long. So I think it was just a perfect storm for the Broncos to be able to win. Like the Buccaneers are going to have to throw the ball. They throw to run, not run to throw. So I think it's a perfect storm where I feel like the Jets definitely have more of a balanced offense approach. So I feel like your boys, they're all good to go, man. Like no sweat.
Awesome. Great. And then if there's guys, if you're in the chat, we definitely love and appreciate you guys for sure. We're going to hit all of your questions in one fell swoop. We just want to make sure we're staying on schedule and making sure that, we are getting you guys the value you guys deserve. Next game we're going to talk about is the Bengals and the Panthers. Bengals, undefeated on the wrong side of the category. They are winless.
But I love it. I love it.
Vegas is still taking them as a -5 favorite on the road going to Carolina. Over on right now is 47. Carolina 1-2 in the year. Clearly a huge bounce back with Andy Dalton at quarterback last week, going into Las Vegas, taking care of business.
Upset alert.
Now they're at home going against a pretty much you would say a Bengals team that is looking to not only find some answers but to close out some games. This team really allowed Washington and Jaden Daniels, who Jaden Daniels looked phenomenal.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Like, by the way, that game, no punts at all, and no turnovers.
Fantasy manager's dreams right there, man. Unless you were on the wrong side of it,
First time since 1940 that happened.
That's wild.
That's real wild. Punts, no turnovers. Crazy.
Jaden Daniels, he's here, baby.
But he definitely has arrived. But that's Jaden Daniels. Burrow, we always know Burrow is going to come out and do Burrow things. I'm trying to figure how Carolina can, keep this game close. Because Carolina overall, like defensively, they've kind of looked not the best. And obviously you trading Brian Burns definitely contributes to that.
Just the week to be.
I just think that I'm just trying to figure still in my head. Was it really just Vegas? Just not really up to par when it came to preparing for Andy Dalton enough. Or are we giving Carolina too much credit? Vegas is still saying that these guys are underdogs at home.
I think it's too much credit, bro. I think it's too much credit, man. Like I talked about it last week. Like we see this all the time, man. When there's a really bad football team and they make a change at quarterback, they play over their head. And I think that was one of those situations last week where they were playing over their head, for sure. And everybody was rejuvenated. Do I think that the Carolina Panthers are a terrible football team now with Andy Dalton? I don't think they're as bad, obviously, as with Bryce Young, and that's not a hot take for sure. I think there are a lot of people that in the fantasy space and that pay attention to fantasy football that were expecting a bounce back year from Bryce Young. It's just not a thing. But I think when you flip the coin and you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, this is a desperate football team right now at 0-3 and playing in arguably the toughest division in football. We've seen this last year, and I believe it was somewhere around this time, week 4, week 5, they went out to Arizona and they were either winless or had one win, and Arizona was playing people pretty tough. And Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow went out there and absolutely stole the show with, I believe, 3 touchdowns and 160 yards, something of that nature. And I think you're going to get a similar performance today from the Cincinnati Bengals. And like defensively, sometimes like it just doesn't match up well, right? Like, and I think with Jaden Daniels, to what we were talking about earlier, like you could see on Monday night that defense they obviously had no answer for him, but their best pass rusher in the most critical time was on the sideline. So I think, today you get somebody who's a little bit more statuesque, like with Andy Dalton. A little bit more traditional. I think it kind of falls right in line with the Bengals and what it is that they need. For sure, T. Higgins looked good last week. He ran 95% of the routes last week. He had 39 routes. Yoshivas got it right this time. He looked good for sure. So yeah. So for me, man, I really like what they have going on. I think some intriguing parts when we talk about like DFS and stuff. Some value plays on the Carolina side. This is definitely a nice game to stack with a nice over under. You're looking at potentially Jonathan Mingo, Xavier Legette. You're looking at some of those guys now from a value perspective if you start to stack up this game. So this is a game that I am getting to with a little bit of frequency, not playing a lot on DraftKings. I mean, on FanDuel today, playing more on DraftKings. So I like this game from a DFS side of things. Obviously, season long, you got to play Chase, you got to play Higgins, you got to play Burrow. The guys that you got to play, right? So for me, I'm taking the Bengals for sure, and I'm taking the Bengals with the points in this one.
I like just the over in this game. I think that Carolina showed that with Andy Dalton at quarterback, they could at least get to 21 points easily. So they just we're pretty much making sure that Cincinnati keeps up their team total. I believe it's like 26 right now for the game. And I just think that this could turn into a game where, just like it was on Monday night with Washington, like I think this could be another one of those games where it definitely goes over. And yeah, from a DFS side of things, like we're talking about Chase at 7,700. Gets a matchup against J.C. Horn, who again has not been great this upcoming year, this season overall. It's like overall like a top 5 matchup overall between wide receiver and cornerback matchups. So I definitely like Chase, and that's why he's on the prop shop list. Prop shop right now 13-10 on the year. So we're getting closer to that 60% mark. Ideally, 60% would be great. Hopefully pushing for more. But Chase falls on this list for sure. His prop line right now over 71.5 receiving yards. Definitely take that. Already did it. Definitely smash it. Just think that, I think for the Bengals to not only have a chance, make sure they're not, winless anymore. He needs to play a big role just like he did last week. Gets another great matchup. So I think that this is totally doable, especially if the Bengals think they're going to definitely win this game. I think the Bengals have been playing a little bit different now. Like the first couple games, they were just starting out just dinking and dunking to their tight ends. But now that Higgins is back now, Yoshivas is playing a lot more, like chemistry-wise with Burrow. Like that leaves Chase for, when he has great matchups, these are the times to strike.
Absolutely.
The other prop I have in this game is Zach Moss over 52.5 rush yards. He's proven to be the guy constantly when it comes to in between the tackles. Chase Brown still comes in on third down every once in a while, mixes in every other series, sort of like your Steelers situation where Najee Harris pretty much takes the bulk of the carries, and then Jaylen Warren mixes in any other series, whatnot, whatever. So I definitely have both of those guys. Unofficial play would be Chuba Hubbard. He made my short list, but didn't make an official plays list. Chuba Hubbard. Over 80 rush receiving yards. That's the prop I would take. And then Deontay Johnson, unofficial as well. 5.5 receptions or more, I expect. I didn't put him on the list officially, but if you guys are listening, you guys want to take that as thinking at, this game is going to go over like I do. These are also decent plays that I didn't put on the prop shop list, but again, like they made my short list, and I figured I'd just give it to you guys when it came to what I was seeing. But anything else you want to cover for this game?
Man. No, okay. Just like the Panthers been giving it up to the passing game. So, we told you, Jamar Chase and company, get it.
Giving it up, say what? Next game we got is the Vikings and Packers, and this should be an awesome matchup when it comes to divisional rivals. Minnesota going to Green Bay. Vikings are undefeated so far, and they are still a +3 underdog going into Green Bay. What do you like about this game, Johnny?
For me, I think an underrated part of this, and I was actually just watching some stuff on TV before we got online here. They're just talking about the Minnesota Vikings and their approach last year with Jordan Love. First game, they didn't really throw the blitz at him. Second game, they blitzed him like 60%. I feel like he's probably going to see the blitz quite a bit today, obviously coming off of this knee injury for sure. But, what a great time to come back, because now all of these Green Bay wide receivers that we've all been salivating over all offseason, now they're going to have an opportunity to be in a shootout with my man, KOC. And they're going to be throwing the ball today, the Minnesota Vikings are, for sure.
Are you a Minnesota fan now?
No, man, I'm not. I just earlier on in the year, man, I was really concerned about during the offseason, I was concerned about what was going to happen with Justin Jefferson in the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And he was somebody that I was like, early on, I was like, hey, man, let's move him to the back end. Let's take A.J. Brown in front of him. Let's take Amon-Ra. And I think, obviously, that's kind of what happened. But I'm a big Justin Jefferson fan. The first 2 to 3 years of his career, man, I won championships because I had him on my team. But nonetheless, man, I think this is a game right here that will go over, and I think it'll just go over just because Minnesota, one way or another, is going to want to throw the ball, right? They're going to want to throw the ball one way or another. Obviously, the Aaron Jones revenge narrative game here, for sure. Sam Darnold 3-0. Definitely didn't have that on the cards for sure. The Vikings are getting Jordan Addison back, which is sad for my guy Jalen Naylor. For sure. But right now, man, we've got Aaron Jones right now, who is officially the one of the top 10 running backs in PPR. So for me, man, I think the Packers get back on track. They've been playing really great football without Jordan Love, I thought, earlier on. And I still think Jordan Love I don't know if it's going to happen now because they won the 2 games. But I thought Jordan Love should be considered as an MVP candidate. So in my opinion, you have an MVP candidate coming back. You have all the receivers healthy. I like the Minnesota Vikings here. The Green Bay Packers here today at home with the over. And so one injury to pay attention to is Jair Alexander. I think he's got a quad and a groin, so obviously we know how that can be. And, Justin Jefferson might just absolutely tear that thing off the bone for him. He might just go ahead and help him out with that. But other than that right there, man, Josh Jacobs is another guy, man, I think we got to pay attention to from a DFS side of things. These couple of weeks in a row, man, he's been sliding in and, people haven't been playing him.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander most likely not going to play this matchup today.
Justin Jefferson all day long, man. Woo! Yeah, this one's going over. This one's going over for sure. But Jair, he didn't travel anyway, man. So
right.
Yeah, but that's what I got for you, man. On this one right here. This is a great DFS game as well to stack up. Sam Darnold's really cheap. Justin Jefferson is one of the most. I think he is the most expensive receiver on DraftKings this week. Jaden Reed's at a good price. My man Christian Watson, Mr. Christian Watson is back. And ready to make some big plays and so I'll tell you, man, I know, man, your game is the prop shop. But I tell you, a prop to pay attention to, I was looking at a little bit earlier. I think it was Romeo Dobbs. I think he might have had a 26-yard prop or something like that right there. 3 catches. I was looking at it and it kind of popped out to me. I was like, damn, that's actually pretty low considering the fact that Jordan Love is going to be back. So that might be a prop to take a look at.
Makes sense. I was actually thinking a little bit different in that matchup. I got a couple in this game, though. I think this game also could go over. Low line. I know it's division rivals, but I think this could easily go over. But just based on how Jordan Love's also coming back, and then Minnesota, how they like to still air raid the ball. They get Addison back. We've talked about, you've talked about your boy Naylor. He can still factor in as a wide receiver 3 in this matchup. Where I'm going this game is Jaden Reed's line is way too low, over 48.5 receiving yards. That's way too low.
Yes.
Defending based on the matchup, because Jaden Reed also gets, a pretty bad corner matchup when it comes to Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy is always been one of those weird, he's been okay, but one of those bend and don't break guys. I think Jaden Reed is going to break him today.
Yep.
But that line 48.5 is way too low. If you guys see rush and receiving yards for 53.5, I'd also take that as well. Because Jaden Reed, we also know he could still be utilized as a Swiss Army knife still. But again, 48.5 receiving yards. I thought that line would go up. It hasn't, which is weird. So I definitely like that line for sure. The other line, obviously, we have to talk about Aaron Jones, over 59.5 rush yards.
Nacho Libre.
I sprinkled on the anytime touchdown for him as well. Revenge game, for Aaron Jones for sure. He's played his whole career in Green Bay before this before this offseason. Now goes into Minnesota. He really wants to stick it to, I'm sure. He probably won't say it. Most players don't, but they're always taking it. I just think Aaron Jones, if you see the Russian receiving line, I think it's 83.5 as well. That's something that where you could potentially also take that as well, because they do like to check it down Aaron Jones every once in a while. But I do like the 59.5 rushing yards. I just think this game environment sets up for Aaron Jones to potentially do that line, especially up to 70 something rush yards, whatever. I just think this is a good matchup. Green Bay, they struggle against zone offenses, zone run schemes. They allow 10 plus more yards on 20%. On 20% of the runs they've allowed the running backs, they go for 10 or plus more yard runs. So I definitely like Aaron Jones, at least in this matchup, for the zone blocking scheme as well. I think Justin Jefferson is one of my locks for the slate today, because Jair Alexander's not playing. And even if Jair Alexander was playing, I still think Jefferson was still going to be able to. I was going to say he's still an easy button, even though he's 8,700 on DraftKings. So it's on a slate where there aren't as many values. You just want to play a guy that potentially, to me, is matchup proof, because again, you got Jefferson, and then people will most likely play Chase, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. For sure, because Chase is 7,700, Marvin Harrison Jr. is 7,500, gets the easiest matchup on the board. Rice, on paper gets a bad matchup, but the Chargers, their defense is already no Joey Bosa today. They're already going to struggle in the pass. Derwin James suspended for a game, so we could look to take advantage of that matchup. So on a slate where people aren't going to probably go as high for receivers, or if they do, they're not going to go that high up to Jefferson. I think Jefferson's pretty much matchup proof. He's proved me definitely wrong when I faded them before. So I think you definitely should go with him today in a matchup where I think ownership won't be as high.
5% own.
Yeah, this is the time. This is the time to do so.
Yeah.
This is the time to do so. As far as this game goes, you got anything else for this?
Let me see. Yeah, I got one more thing for your prop shop, man.
Okay, sure.
Aaron Jones, 94 yards in 7 of his last 8, 104 yards or more in 7 of his last 8. Smash.
Beautiful. 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 What I was gonna say, I was kind of looking at your boy Watson's line, but I'm like, it's kind of because Watson's just been utilized. Like, obviously, he's more of the time I take him now. In terms of when Jordan Love's back in the lineup, line right now is 33.5, unofficial play. But if you guys are liking Watson, if you think he's going to definitely be factored into today, which he definitely could and should be, just remember Minnesota's defense, like they get a lot of pressure and everything. So Jordan Love is more of a statue today. So you're hoping that Jordan Love definitely gets the ball out pretty quickly, and that's where I think Jayden Reed thrives a little bit better. But I think one shot for Watson, obviously down the field, and that's
all he needs is one mic
cash for you.
One mic.
All he does, unfortunately, I'm sitting him. One of my leagues, I have him because it's just I have better options. But again, I think Watson's a guy that I think is definitely a buy low candidate as well. Because he's definitely when Jordan Love's back there, he's going to look for guys like Watson. And everybody gets a boost when he's back. Dobbs, 44.5. That's a little bit more higher, but I just like Jayden Reed overall. But moving on to the next game, we got the Jags and the Texans, another divisional game. Jaguars winless as well. 5-point underdog going into Houston, over under 44.5. I think from this game, what I expect is Houston, because they got their asses smacked, literally by a Minnesota team that we just talked about, that defensively was all over this offensive line, all over CJ Stroud, forced him into early, bad decisions, pretty much almost back-to-back interceptions, if I don't recall, and just put Minnesota in great position to constantly score. What I expect from this game is Houston to bounce back. I know the Jags on paper, they're probably getting more. I think the line I think people are starting to pour more into Houston for the overall point spread. I think that line it's 5.5 now. But I think in this game, I'm expecting a couple of things. I'm expecting Houston to do their thing, get back on track. So that's why I like Diggs over 5.5 receptions. Yeah. Jaguars allow six most catches to wide receivers. You could also say Nico Collins as well. Wouldn't hate you for that. He has a better matchup, but I think Stephon Diggs is, without Tank Dell, definitely deserves to be the slot guy, the motion receiver, and playing the matchups on the slot. I just think that overall, like I said, I know Collins technically has a better matchup on paper, but I'm not going to shy away from Stephon Diggs, especially with no Tank Dell today, especially with no Joe Mixon now as well.
Right.
I think that he definitely deserves to be factored in. The other prop I have in this game is ETN over 74.5 rushing receiving. Look, I think ETN, this is a game where I think the Jaguars have to lean on ETN a lot more because no Ingram again. And look, like they offensively looked atrocious last week against Buffalo. Buffalo just, raced them so early in their game on, pretty much on a, just boat raced them basically. But I expect the ETN, ETN hasn't had the best season so far just yet. I know it's a little bit more riskier. But I do think that the Jaguars need to get him a lot more involved. I think ETN responds with a big game on the road against a division rival. So that's what I got for the game. Like I said, you can still take Nico Collins as well. I think his line is receiving yards on DraftKings. He is 83.5. And again, gets the better matchup when it comes to wide receiver cornerback matchups. But I would say that, because he gets Montark Brown. There we go. So I don't know too much about him enough, but I know he's been getting burned constantly because without Tyson Campbell, without their best corner, what I'm saying, that the Jaguars have haven't looked non-existent.
No, they haven't, man.
They've just been getting burnt by whoever. So That's where I'm at with that. But Johnny, where you stand on this game? Like, do you like the over in this game? You like Houston to cover their points? Like, where do you lean here?
I mean, dude, for me, I think it's same kind of concept, right? Like, I think obviously we're expecting Houston to bounce back. However, like, Jacksonville is a desperate football team, and these are trap games. When you look at like the over, like these are when you look these are trap games.
From me.
Oh, shut up, man! Shut up. These are trap games, right? And I think like for the Jags, right? Like the one thing like we can't forget is they still, however you want to view Trevor Lawrence, he hasn't been great this year. I think we all know that, but they still have players on the outside, and Christian Kirk and Mr. Thomas as well. So, and ATN. So I think like you still have to consider the fact that like, hey, like this is a thing. The Texans got they do have an injury. Jimmy Ward is not playing today in the secondary. So that's another thing as well we got to look at. And then I think just another interesting piece, right? Like you take a look at like what happened last week with Khalil Shakir and how he kind of had his coming out party. And essentially that's the guy that replaced Stephon Diggs. So now Stephon Diggs is now playing the Jacksonville Jags. It plays a very similar role for the Texans. I wouldn't, again, to your point with Diggs, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a really good game. Last week, Cam Akers was the chalk of the slate. Didn't really hit for us like Jawan Jennings did. So like that's another place that like if you want to go back and you want to revisit now that since we know officially Joe Mixon is out, I think that's okay. And then like I don't want to say I'm starting to get concerned with CJ Stroud, but I think it's just second year bumps and bruises, right? Like teams are able to see you now, like they're able to have film on you, they're able to know what you do really well and what you don't do really well, how to disguise those things. So I think I would, if I'm taking this is not a game I'm going to mess with today, but I wouldn't be shocked if somehow the Jags found a backdoor way to cover. Not to win, but just to cover the 5. Because I think like they have to play. Like if they don't win today, for all intents and purposes, their playoff chances are in the shitter pretty much. Like, and you smell that? You smell that? I smell it. Yeah. You watch Mr. McMahon? Did you watch that? That's from No Holds Barred or whatever, man, with Hogan. That's what it is.
Good Lord, yo. We're really on the same page, aren't we?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, man, give me straight up, give me the Texans. And if somebody put a gun in my head and said, hey, man, you got to pick, give me the over, and I'll roll the dice. Everything I say anyway has been going sideways this year. Give me the Jags and the points.
Not everything, bro. Not everything.
Oh man, from a games.
We've been said to the whole community about Barkley. Like,
man, my picks
so far.
My picks. Like that's one of the places I hang my hat on, man. And 4 weeks in, or 3 weeks in, I'm like, golly, bro. The NFL is drunk, but.
No, just right now the NFL really is in a place where they don't want to get beaten by the deep ball constantly, and you got a lot of safeties playing high shells, and that's the problem when it comes to this right now. Is that the run game is just going to be taking over. We'll see. I believe we'll start seeing more of this, like in terms of like the correlation of that changing. There's going to be some regression in this category eventually because, again, the rules and how the game is changing in the league, it's definitely changing to the point where
the Jags are a cover one-man team, so we're going to see that in this game. So we're going to see that in this game.
Exactly. So yeah, that's where I think Diggs and Nico and these guys can get loose, and that's why Houston will win this game. Moving on, your Steelers going on the road to Indianapolis, taking on Anthony Richardson's Jonathan Taylor and the squad of the Colts. Steelers coming in undefeated. They are -2, favor on the road, going to Indianapolis, the Dome, over under 40. What do you say about your boys? I'll let you take the mic.
I obviously, man, I still feel good about them. I think this is another game. I think this is a get-right offensive game for them for sure. We're starting to see the progression of Justin Fields. I think for fantasy managers, we have been expecting like a big blow-up game for sure. I think this could be the game. These games are always very interesting for whatever reason when the Steelers and the Colts play. I can think back a few years ago during the Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell time, like big blowouts. Obviously, you have the AFC Championship with Ben Roethlisberger a few years ago. Then last year, I believe they played on an island game on Saturday, and they got up big, and then the Colts got back in the game. Like these are always very interesting games, and I think when you look now, like at the quarterback position for both of these teams, very similar but yet very different. So there's that part of it. I think obviously I'm not too concerned about Michael Pittman. I think it's the ancillary pieces for me that makes me a little bit concerned, although Pittsburgh has looked incredibly better on the back end. This is the best that they've looked in 10, 12 years as far as the secondary is concerned. Obviously, no Alex Highsmith this week. That's okay because my man Nick, not Wilcox, but Heiberg, he's going to be ready to go, man. I think very underrated. I'm super, super excited to see him on the field because I think when we get later on into the season, obviously health pending, they're now going to have 3 pass rushers that they can bring and do a lot of different things defensively, very creatively. So I'm really excited about that. No Jaylen Warren this week. So obviously you're going to see Cordell Patterson a lot more. Cordell Patterson, shout out UT, his first one. Yeah.
Wait, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think obviously he's gonna have to play some. Najee Harris is a very popular pick this week in DFS, which he should be. A little bit banged up front, man. We were expecting to get Isaac Samalo back this week, and that didn't happen, man. I think he got dinged up again at practice. So I don't want to say concerned, but like we're not at full strength up front. But for me, obviously, like I said, like I feel really good about where the Steelers are at. I think this is a game that they absolutely should win. Just got to control Jonathan Taylor, man. And Anthony Richardson is a guy that like he's my Scott Fishbowl quarterback. He was my 1-4 pick. Not very happy with him right now, which obviously makes sense that he would come out and burn me on a day like today because I'm completely over him. Don't have him any season long.
Picked him up in a league that someone just dropped him.
Yeah, I picked him up in a league too. Somebody dropped him, man.
I picked up Keelan Allen in that same league. So
yeah, like I mean, but I think like the other thing too that makes this situation.
Josh Allen, so
yeah, I think the other thing that makes this situation really unique is this is the first time all year that the Steelers are going to see a mobile quarterback. Playing Kirk Cousins, playing a banged up Justin Herbert. That's one thing that makes me a little bit concerned is this is their first time playing a mobile quarterback, and Anthony Richardson, so much conversation, so much heat around him. I think this is a game that you probably will see him take off a little bit more and run a little bit more, but you better be careful out there, AR, man, because you know them black and gold boys, man, they coming for you. So anyways, long story short, give me the Steelers, give me the points on the road. I'm good with it.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on this one. Pittsburgh has really come out and just really looked. They've been playing some ugly games in some fashion, some type of ways. Not been as flashy. But Justin Fields, man, like he's been the guy. And we all thought Justin Fields could potentially be that guy. It just didn't think it was going to happen in Pittsburgh because of what Russell Wilson was doing. They brought him in, thought he was going to be the veteran quarterback, thought it was going to go that way. But you know what happened? He got hurt. So in terms of Pittsburgh, like their defense is really stifling.
Yes.
They've allowed the third fewest rush attempts in all the NFL right now at 61. They are second best in the league in rushing yards allowed, and they are number 1 in both red zone conversion allowed and third down conversion rate.
Keep going.
No, that's it. I think Jonathan Taylor is a sit for me. So someone I want to fade because I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense playing play too well. And this could again be one of those trap games where it could be like, is this really something that is solidified that we're going to see from Pittsburgh? Or is it one of those situations where again, like we could be really a bit wrong and Colts can come out and, again, something could change in the early stages of this game, a turnover or something like that happens and they get the possession and they get to run the show. They kind of want to run it. You talked about, your Steelers, you talked about Cordero Patterson. I'm going to talk about Najee Harris, right? Been talking about him all season. He's been on the prop list.
I mentioned Najee. I was saving my boy for the last piece, but go ahead.
I bet, but I got to talk about your boy Najee Harris. He's been my boy. I've been drafting him pretty much in all other leagues, and pretty much I got like in like 6 or 8 leagues I had Najee Harris. 64.5 rush yards is just a tad too low. He's been clearing that every game. He's had his rushing attempts have been 17 plus or more. As well in all 3 games. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet. I'm a sprinkle on the anytime touchdown as well. I just think Najee Harris, I know your offensive line may not be as, that, but Colts defense overall has allowed the most rush yards right now this season. And again, is that a trend or is that more something that remains to be seen if it's something that's going to be changing a little bit more up differently? I'm going to still go with, the Colts defense has just been, besides Chicago last week, that game is kind of somewhat thrown out the window because they let Caleb Williams throw for 50 something times a game. So Chicago just banned and run because, DeAndre Swift, I told everybody to fade.
Facts.
Just told everyone to fade him. So far, great on that. I'll take a lap on that one. I'll take a lap.
Yeah, I think we both can.
We take a lap.
Give me a lap. Give me a lap. We can take one on him. I think.
I'll take a lap. I'll take a lap on that one.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to telling you guys the victory laps we'll take and all the laps that we might take the other way around, where we told you that not bad information, but things just did come to
just didn't hit. Just didn't hit.
So, I have Jonathan Taylor as RB18 on the week, and then Najee Harris to me. Yeah, he's definitely like a DFS play. I don't want to say lock play, but it's very close.
I get worried about when it's like this, man. When he's like
5,600.
Yeah, when he's not priced high, I always get worried about that mid-range chalk in DFS. I just get so paranoid about it, man.
Too. More receivers than running backs. But
receivers. Oh, you must be talking about George Pickens blow up game.
No. Actually, I was just going to ask you that question. Do you think it's the blow up game that George Pickens is this the time? He's 5,700 on DraftKings. And then I'm trying to make sure I don't have another play in this game, so you can talk about your boy.
Yeah, I mean with George Pickens, I think this is.
He's not from UT.
Huh?
And he's not from UT.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's
from Georgia.
He's actually from Georgia. Yeah, trust me. It kind of real quick, man. When the Steelers drafted Najee Harris, I was with one of my buddies in there. They're like, "Man, are you hype?" And I was like,
"No."
I don't know how to feel right now, man. I'm actually gonna have to root for an Alabama guy, and Minka's from Alabama. But anyway, no, man. The Colts, man, giving up the second most yards per passing, fourth in receiving yards at this point as far as giving it up. I think George Pickens obviously is a big play waiting to happen. Somebody from the Steelers receiving core should pop today. It's obviously we look at it and it's got to be George Pickens. This has got to be the time for him for sure. So I'm playing him. I don't have any props going with him or anything like that right there, but I think this is it. There's been a lot of talk this week with the Steelers about opening up the offense more and Justin Fields, throwing the football more essentially and not being so conservative. But I think again, one of the things with the Steelers is if there isn't a need for it, they're not going to do it. So that's the other element of it.
That's
and
the scary part.
that is the scary part. That is the scary part. But I always say, yeah, it just takes one. And then two, hey, if you got George Pickens, just keep the faith because the second half of the year, that schedule gets a little bit tougher, man. I'm telling you, just hang in there, baby. Hang in there with me.
Oh boy. I'm sure. So George Pickens is either going to make the buy low category on Tuesday or to sell high. We'll have to maybe see where he'll be.
Oh, I'll ride with him.
But I think from Anthony Richardson's standpoint, I don't know. You're hoping that Anthony Richardson, I didn't take his rushing prop. I have the last several weeks. He's just been disappointing. Yeah. But if you guys want to take that, if you think he's going to be able to bounce back better at home, which he has looked a little bit better at home in general, this could be the spot where you take him for both passing yards and rushing yards. It's really low passing yards.
It's probably
one. Yeah, it's pretty low. I just didn't take his props because I'm nervous he's going to burn me again. But this is the time where also you should potentially take him. Again, this is unofficial information. Justin Fields also is an unofficial play, but he did make my short list. He just didn't make my official plays. But if we somehow find a way to make this game a little bit more interesting, the Steelers is going to pass the ball a little bit more. GP will get the ball, get the ball a little bit more. Pat Fryer move, stuff like that. So both of these guys right now on DraftKings, both over 182 passing yards. So I should probably tell you something. And then for the rush yards, Justin Fields 43.5, Anthony Richardson now 35.5. Interesting.
Yeah.
No.
I haven't messed with any of it.
It's tempting.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's unofficial play. 35.5. I thought it was 40 because I saw it I think I saw 40 on FanDuel, but now it's DraftKings is 35.5. Like it's a little bit tempting, but I'm gonna stay away. I'm gonna shy away. Because in order for the Colts to be any type of competitive in this game, they're gonna have to throw the ball. And that's where Anthony Richardson will be able to potentially get that rushing time. But he's just been close the last couple of weeks. I may want to roll with it again. Again, it's unofficial. If I do play it though, I will drop it on Twitter if you guys are paying attention. If I do play it, I will post it on Twitter. So that's where it will go. Anything else for your boys in this game, Johnny?
Nah, man.
Steelers no points for you.
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.
All right, cool. Moving on. Saints, Falcons. Divisional game. Saints coming into Atlanta 2-1. They are a +3 on the road going into Atlanta. The over-under right now is 41.5. What do you say about this game, Johnny, overall?
I say Chris Olave hamstring. And
yeah, he's expected to play.
Yeah, but it's a hammy.
Is he a decoy though? Yeah, right. Is
right,
he a decoy
right.
Or
it's a hammy. So like I'm a little bit nervous about the Saints for sure. I do like the Falcons. I can't remember. I heard a stat that said it's they haven't won at home. I know they haven't won at home this year for sure. So that's another interesting take as well. And I think Kirk Cousins is obviously, man, he's starting to get rolling a little bit for sure.
Yeah,
and then the Saints as well, just in terms of like tight ends. I think Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, obviously Drake London. I like this. I like the Falcons here, man. Like I like what they got going on. I think this is a really good place for them for sure. Bijan Robinson's got to find the end zone, man. I think that's another place for sure. And then Dallas Goedert, what he did last week to the Saints. And then you have, the golden child for tight end, who it just might be just from a pure attrition standpoint that Kyle Pitts ends up being the right pick for end this year. So I think like that's something to consider, like from a DFS side of things. I don't think he's too highly owned. But there's not a lot from the Saints side that I would like other than Kamara, other than Kamara and Rashid Shaheed. Which I think this would obviously be a great opportunity for Rashid Shaheed to potentially bounce back. And when I say bounce back, obviously he's a big play. But it's, but if Olave is dinged up, does he see AJ Terrell quite a bit? And if so, does that change the whole dynamic of things? I seen our guy Tip talking about Taysom Hill this morning.
It's potential.
So I think like
think about playing him against him this week.
Yeah. But I think for me, man, like if I'm going anywhere, man, I'm going the under on this game right here. Division game, a lot of familiarity. Obviously, there's been some changes with Kubiak, taking over for the Saints offensively, and then obviously Raheem Morris now, taking over for the Falcons. So that familiarity as far as coaching, that piece I'm not too concerned about, but just the players themselves, right? So division game, give me the Falcons at home, and I'm taking the under. I don't know if I would mess with the points or not. Fuck it. Give me the points, man, with the Falcons for sure. Give me the points. Give me the under.
Okay.
And the reason why, like some other things too, man, like I think just to like kind of call out is like Derek Carr, like obviously played against the Panthers, like week 1, like we seen like that was a very suspect defense. We've seen how suspect the Dallas Cowboys are on defense, even on Thursday night going against the New York Giants, right? and yeah, wolf. And then even if you think about it, like even just from last week, them playing against the Philadelphia Eagles, who is a defense that really, you think about it, they're probably the closest thing to middle of the road. Those other two defenses are definitely they ain't even mid, bro. So like I think the Falcons, I think they get the win here for sure. And apparently they're wearing them sweet red helmets and unis today, man. So I can't wait to see that either. Yeah,
that should be interesting. Very interesting. What do I say about this game? Well, I hear what you're saying. I just don't trust Atlanta right now. I just don't trust Atlanta, and the reason the reason for that is really because this Saints defense has been really nice, right? They've shut down some offenses that we thought were going to be something as well. But obviously they lost at home to the Eagles this past week, and it really wasn't because of defense. It was really because the Eagles must have seen something on Derek Carr on tape that they liked really well, and they were just able to shut that offense down. But I think I'm gonna take the Saints. I'm gonna take the points, because I just respect the offense enough right now for the Saints, and Atlanta's offense to me just doesn't, for whatever reason, Bijan Robinson hasn't had the blow up game just yet. Neither has really Drake London. So I mean, they've had modest games. Don't get me wrong. It just feels like this offense is not still in sync enough to them to be a favorite in this spot, in my opinion. But that's just where I kind of lean. We'll just have to see. What's up?
Thinking about what just happened last week with Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley, and you got Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson coming to town, and the Atlanta defense is better than we give it credit for, man. I think just in our minds, we're just like
I'm just talking about the offense.
Yeah. I think we're just used to Atlanta not having a relatively solid defense, and even last year I think they were better than people gave them credit for, especially at home. So I'm just I feel you. I feel you, but I just think the cabinet is very full in Atlanta on both sides of the ball. And really, when you think about their two losses, right? They're Kansas City Chiefs, undefeated, Pittsburgh Steelers, undefeated. So I think this is a really good game to find out, man, contender or pretender right here. I think for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. For both teams. I think for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the very early stage. I think whoever wins this game whoever wins this game puts himself a little bit more in the distance for division right now.
Yeah.
Especially for the Saints. That's why I think the Saints are going to win this game, because I think they're going to step up and win this game. I think they know what's on the line, especially early on in the year. I just think Atlanta offense, like I said, it just hasn't been there. So I think they're going to be playing from behind. Kirk Cousins makes the prop shot. Over 220 pass yards. He's had that back-to-back games. The Pittsburgh game he obviously struggled in. Now it's because they were playing weird offense. Playing Kirk Cousins in the pistol.
Yeah, because they scared. They scared of them Hellraisers out there, baby.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying in general, it was just weird. So ever since that game, and then he bounced back from Philly, to beat them in the closing minutes. I just think Kirk Cousins is going to be set up in a game where hopefully they do get going, and this is where I kind of want to plant my flag if they do. I love Bijan Robinson rush receiving as well, and I'm not going to knock against that either. But I do think Kirk Cousins in Atlanta is going to have to find a way to get these guys more involved. Saints is like I said, a pretty decent defense. But I think Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw the ball in order for him to be, relevantly enough to beat these guys enough at home and to cover. That's where I stand on this game. You could take Kamara, 96.5 rushing receiving yards. He's just not an official play for me, just because of the questionable injury he's got. But I think that's where I kind of stand in this game. Anything else before we move on?
No, man, I just think again, man, I think this is just a really good spot to be able to get some high-end players on the DFS side of things. Sure. With a defense that could be potentially gimpy because no Demario Davis this week as well. I think this is the first time he's missing a game in 13 weeks. So that's another call out from my man Kyle Pitts working the middle of the field. So
right. Come here, 7,600, man. Ooh,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Limited practices back-to-back week with the hip and / ribs that Chef was saying.
Yeah, dude, if you believe in this over, man, Bijan's coming in pretty heavy, man. But if you believe in this over, other than Bijan, man, everybody else is practically unowned. So
what's Aaron Jones coming in at right now?
Aaron Jones
coming out. He's probably the chalk right now, right?
I don't think he's chalk, man. Aaron Jones, well, he's 16%. He's getting there. He's
starting to get there. He's probably going to be 20 or so percent.
He's starting to get there.
And what about your guy Najee?
Najee is 20% as well. So one guy, I don't want to jump ahead, obviously, but but our fantasy MVP is practically not on this week, is what I'll say.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So I have to play him this week. We're gonna get to this question for Ryan in the chat. Thanks for waiting, for pre and patience. Talking about standard leagues, talk about Achane, talk about Connor. I think in a standard league, you're starting Connor, and a PPR, you're definitely starting HN. I wouldn't necessarily try to sit Connor, but I do think that the matchup is more the middle of the road. Washington is a better rush defense than they are a pass defense because they are a pass defense funnel for anyone down the field. I think Connor has a good chance to for a D, whether it be standard, whether it be DFS.
He's a good play this week.
He's always a good play to get some, so he's always a good play when he's healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like last week was a little bit of an underlier because Arizona had to play from behind a little bit. He only had 9 carries last week. But I think before that game, he had back-to-back games at least over 15 rushes. He had over at least 50 yards rushing. So again, with Connor, probably wouldn't play him DFS wise, but I would start him in a standard league where touchdowns are king. I think Miami, it just remains to be seen what's going to happen with them right now with Tyler Huntley now a quarterback for Monday nights playing against Tennessee. So it just in a standard league and a PPR, it'd probably be HM because you're hoping that he gets all these checkdowns. I hope he does. But I think Connor is definitely to play in a standard where touchdowns are king. Moving on to the next game we got. Let's see. We got the Rams Bears. That was an interesting game for me. I wouldn't say it's a crap game, but it's something that it's something where it could be a really boring game. Like last week with the Rams and Niners, the Niners, everyone thought the Niners were coming. I'm just saying it could be one of those games where on paper it may not look as so appetizing, but Rams coming as the underdog +3 going to Chicago. Over under is 40.5. What I'll say about this game is that the Rams will make things interesting. We don't know we don't know exactly where receiving wise the things will go, but we know Kyron Williams will definitely be the guy that they hitch their wagon on. 3 touchdowns last week, just absolutely killing it. When it comes to just being the focal point of this offense, Tutu Atwell is someone that's interesting when it comes to just this game because it only takes one. He's been the guy that's been a lot more of the flashier receiver versus some of the other guys like Robinson, stuff like that. And even Parkinson. It's just for the Rams. It's just been kind of really just leaned on Kyron pretty much in this overall, and that's where it goes. But the Chicago defense, man, is definitely tough. One of the more top defenses on the slate. So for Chicago, the Rams have always been kind of middle of the pack-ish for their defense. It just depends if Caleb Williams is going to be, was he one of those questions of will he be what he was for the previous weeks before last week where he had the outlier game of throwing over 50 pass attempts, or is it going to be just what he had been doing before? So it's kind of if it is that performance, Chicago's going to struggle at home. Where the Rams have enough veterans on the squad to definitely get the W. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to take the money line going to Chicago. I think Sean McVay is going to have these guys enough prepared to take over this game at some point and to keep Caleb Williams on his heels. What do you say?
I'm actually going the other direction, man. I'm going with the Bears. I just think that was the Bears. That was an emotional. Yeah, man. No, I got a good Chicago, impersonation, man. One of my boys, man, growing up, man, he's from Chicago. So,
from Chicago. He's from Chicago.
But yeah, man. I just think, I think obviously, man, we talk about it, man, that added element of the division game, you never know what to expect, right? Because of the familiarity, and that was familiarity with both of those teams, both of those coaches who know each other, McVay and Shanahan. Obviously, now here you go, we're going from west to east, and I think the Chicago Bears, right? One of the things we knew during the offseason was we knew their defense was going to be pretty solid. We knew that defense, even with all the hype and everything going around it, we knew that defense was going to have to be where the buck really started and stopped. And I think right now, man, I think
Keelan Allen active for week 4, baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It's I think now we're at a point now, right, where the Rams are really banged up, and I don't want to be that guy, but they're really banged up. And again, last week they knew that if they lost a division game or if they lost period, in that division's wide open out there, man. It's wide open between the Rams, the Niners, and the Seahawks, and the it's wide open. So like they obviously had to have that one. But I just think right now, man, I think I've said it all off season. I feel like there's going to be a point where the talent of Caleb Williams, where it clicks. And like, I think like we're going to start to see it click. This is week 4. This is really a lot of people's week 1. So give me the Bears. Give me the Bears. I bring back preseason football. I had to say it. I'm just gonna put on my I'm gonna put on my profile now. But like, give me the Bears and the points for sure. Yeah, I like this. Everybody's back for the Bears. Obviously, the Bears don't have a run game, so obviously we expect to see Roschon Johnson this week and Khalil Herbert. So there's no shock there. Cole Kmet came back from the dead last week, to be fantasy relevant. So all that long-windedness, man, and Jalen Johnson, man, like Jalen Johnson as a cover corner, one of the best cover corners in football. And then also, too, man, they got Edmonds out there, middle linebacker for the Bears. Like, I like this setup for the Bears at home. Give me the points in the Bears, man.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm just gonna go with McVay. I just think that Chicago's coaching, man, it just doesn't give me enough trust in them. And then again, no lack of rush game is like, until I see something different, I'm just telling they're a bunch of idiots for bringing in Swift, and you're not doing enough with him in the ground game, and then not even trying to get him enough touches for swing plays and stuff like that. Getting Keenan Allen helps though. So that's going to be interesting, but I think the Rams are getting, I don't think they're getting enough credit here for the team that, they could still be versus the Chicago Bears team where, again, like, we'll just have to see what happens. Next game is pretty much a pick 'em. Eagles are a -1.5 favorite going against Tampa Bay. Over under is 42.5. Yeah, like what I would say is, hold on a second, because he's pretty much, I'm just gonna lock him in now. One of the locks of the slate, Saquon Barkley. Look, man, like Saquon Barkley without Devontae Adams. Wrong team. And Ron Devontae Smith. Without Devontae Smith, without AJ Brown, without the kid Brendan Covey, who was getting all these check down works. The previous game that they played, not the Saints, but the previous game in Atlanta for Philly, he's out on the IR as well. So is Jahan Dotson going to get the ball here? Is Dallas Goedert going to get the ball more?
Jesus, get him
I don't want to say that name around
Please
you. Please
don't even. Don't.
But I think it's pretty much, again, Barkley show. That's why I'm taking him over 104.5 rush and receiving. I think they have to, get Barkley constantly more involved. You could take the rush yards at 77.5 as well, but I'm gonna go a little bit more safer because I think Barkley should be featured a lot more in the pass game this week as they go into Tampa. Knowing what happened last week with overall, just like, and Barkley's obviously one play away from breaking it. He's looked spry. We're talking about Barkley like potentially 2018
Penn State Barkley,
where he had over 2,000. Over 2,000 scrimmage yards. He had 1,300 rushing. So it's like we're looking at that Barkley, I think, right now. And that's where, again, I think Eagles, they come in and they win this game because they just kind of want to, again, they get to bye next week, and that's why you got Devontae Smith sitting. That's why you got AJ Brown sitting, stuff like that. They probably won't admit it, but that's why they're probably doing it. But I think the over is interesting here because we all know the Eagles defense, again, just still pass defense hasn't gelled enough to where we're like, all right, like even though they beat the Saints, like I still think that, I think this game could easily hit the over. I'm taking the Eagles, the over. What do you say, Johnny?
I think it could hit the over for sure. What up, Swanee? I think it could hit the over. I'm not exactly doing cartwheels about it. Just because I'm curious about like where are the Eagles going to get points from? Like, obviously, we talked about Saquon. We obviously know that he's in play for
Dallas
sure.
Goedert, 10 catches, 170 yards last week.
Yeah, but the Bucs have actually done pretty good against the tight end this year. So, now who are we counting on the outside? Johan Dotson. like you know what I mean?
You saw I didn't say anything, right?
Like, you know, like I mean, who like that's, and I think too, like I think last year too, like, you know, the playoff matchup against the Buccaneers last year, Buccaneers and Eagles, you know, this was when people really had to actually say, okay, like the Tampa Bay Bucs are for real. And I think like this is a great bounce back opportunity for one Baker Mayfield, obviously, as he had a very terrible game last Sunday against the Denver Broncos. So for me, man, like I'm going with the Bucs. They're at home. I think this is one of those lines that's off. I just don't think the Eagles have enough firepower, and I think it's just a get right game. And the Eagles haven't corrected a lot of things on the back end as far as the secondary goes. They do have some questions at running back with Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, as far as like some injury pieces. But like I'm probably not going to take the over just because I don't know how Philadelphia gets there. And like if there was one thing talking about Saquon, I think this is the week we see if they are able to keep this game close and are able to win or whatever the case may be. I think this is the week you see the tush push come back inside the red zone because now they're going to have to utilize Jalen Hurts now because of all their playmakers being gone and what Tampa Bay's been able to do against the tight end. So if for me, like I look at a Jalen Hurts rushing prop, and I'm probably a little bit more intrigued by that this week than I would be normally.
Okay. Just got word Rachaad White's playing this game.
Okay.
Bucky Irving should also be playing this game. I think he was expected to go. We'll let you know if that changes. But I mean, look, I think the Eagles are going to find a way to score. Yeah, it's going to be a little weird on how they will. It's going to be Hurts. It's going to be Barkley. It's going to be Dallas Goedert. I know he doesn't have the best matchup. And then again, it's just the Eagles are going to find a way. They've been doing it. So it's just, again, like they found a way to do it in a weird matchup against the Saints last week. I do think the Bucs defense isn't as as potent as the Saints.
Agree.
We'll just have to see, man.
But
I do like the over for as weird as it looks because we're getting pretty much a good team value for points. I think the Eagles right now, team total is like 22 right now for points. Like we're still getting a decent value versus what we had been getting. So I do like the Eagles, do like the points, the over. So you like the Bucs in this matchup? At home?
Yeah. I'm looking at some things. I'm looking at some things. I'm like, all right. I don't know. Just give me the Bucs and the points. Give me the Bucs and the points, man. Golly, no, some low key stuff happening over here.
I see that. I see you struggling. Next game we got. It's anticipated to be a crap game. It should be a crap game.
Yeah, be easy, man. My guy Swanee, man. He's a 49er fan. Be easy. He's gonna get all fired.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the Niners. I was purely talking about the Patriots.
Oh, okay. I thought you said as a whole. I was like, man.
We got good news to share though. So the Patriots are a plus 10.5 underdog going on the road to San Francisco. Over under 41. What I like about this game is that Debo is officially expected to play in this game. Ooh, I'm so excited. It's like Christmas came early almost, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm excited. Just got to make sure everything's, 4:00 games, they come out a little bit later for injuries, but everything seems to be buttoning up to Debo playing today. When I definitely expected them not to play. I thought I was going to be playing next week. But in terms of this matchup, like, I'm definitely taking Jordan Mason as an anytime touchdown bet. It's not exactly official. I'll let you know what officially it is in a little bit. But look, man, the Patriots just look like crap. But I will say about these Patriots, the line is a little sneaky. I know people are pounding the Niners, but again, we did shades not only last week, but also the Patriots played a decent game week 1 against Cincinnati and held them in check. Granted, it was without Higgins and whatever. And I'm not telling you to not take the Niners and the points. I'm just saying that this could easily be one of those games where it can be a little bit more competitive, at least in the beginning stages. But I think that if I was looking at a game to potentially get a live line on, this would be the game. Because if the Patriots somehow come out swinging, score early, this is something where, all right, I'll take the Niners when, eventually at a live bet. I just don't like taking a 10. I just don't like taking a 10 plus. I know the Niners are a really good team, stuff like that. But what do you say, Johnny, overall, for all things considered?
Man, is a get right spot, dude. This is absolutely like I'm typically not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of like big spreads, man. Like they just create me all kind of angst. But like I look at this every angle imaginable, and I think the 49ers defense is going to be pissed off because they just blew a lead last week.
Oh yeah.
The whole crew is back this week, with the exception of CMC, obviously. The whole crew is back. This is probably one of the least efficient offenses in the NFL when you talk about the Patriots. Like, this is a get-right game for the 49ers. So for me, I'm out of my survivor pool, but if I was in a survivor pool and I had taken the Niners, that's who I would take. I love the Jordan Mason. I love the Jordan Mason anytime touchdown call for sure. And yeah, man, like Jordan Mason is pretty heavily owned on DraftKings at almost 30%. So he's going to be one of the chalkier plays of the slate. Like I think everybody's expecting him to find the end zone. I'm not going to keep it long-winded, man. I just don't see there's any way that the Pats pull this game out. So give me the Niners and Shanahan and them boys all day long and the points. I'm not going to take the over because again, I don't know how the Patriots get there. But I don't find it far-fetched for the Niners to score 30 points today. Put it like that.
Fair enough. Got it. Got it and good. Next game. Commanders at Arizona.
Woo! Here we go.
Over under right now, 49. Commanders are a +3 underdog going into Arizona. Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona like didn't look like Arizona. The game was like just as I kind of said on the show last week, where both these games were trying, both teams were trying to get their run games going, and Detroit ended up just being that team. And defensively was again more of a showdown. And I told people to take the under in that game, and it happened. But I was going to say in regards to that, like,
probably so, man. I've been cursing everything this year, man. Maybe I can curse the Scott Fishbowl team, and we can call it.
Wow, you sir are a dick. That being said, when it comes to this game, I expect Arizona to come and win this game at home. They need to just get some things, right. I think they played a Detroit team that, again, I think field position wise played a role into this. I think without even them having McBride this week as well, like for the Cardinals, like it could be a little bit of a tall order of task. But look, Washington allows the most pass yards. They are, like I said earlier in this show, they are a pass funnel for receivers. This is why I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. over 71.5 receiving yards. I got him sprinkling for an anytime touchdown as well. Look, man, like I just think that this is another matchup where I think it's one of those games and matchups where I think it's pretty much like we will solidify as, consistently be playing throughout the year. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously a stud. No McBride this week. Expecting Michael Wilson, these guys to get the ball as well. But I think with MSJ and Murray, they have to connect this week. In order for Arizona not only to have greater aspirations for the rest of the season, but just confidence levels for both of these guys. I just think MJ, 71.5 just might be a little too low for me. Based on, so I would take this line maybe potentially up to like, 85 receiving yards if it got up that high. I don't think it did. But in terms of, what I see in this game, like, Daniels, he made my short list for rushing, but I didn't touch it this week. But in terms of just this game entirely, I expect Arizona to take care of business. Washington, again, their defense, they've just been kind of, both sides of the ball for them have been, in a way, they've been kind of a little unlucky. Lucky in terms of them scoring on pretty much every drive they've had this season, whether it be field goal or touchdown. So overall, this were, anytime in the red zone, at least they've scored. But Johnny, what do you say about this game overall? Do you like the over-under this week? Another unofficial play was Kyler Murray. He'll probably potentially make my list for rushing, and for passing potentially. But that's where I stand this game. But Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, man, this game is this is the DFS treat of the week right here. This game is with like DFS pieces.
A treat?
Yeah, it's flying everywhere, man. Like you got value wide receivers all over the place for the Cardinals and Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson. And then you have the tight end Higgins as well, who's a nice cheap play as well if you want to get kind of cute and stack that away. Zach Ertz is super cheap at the tight end spot. Then obviously you got Brian Robinson and you got James Conner and obviously Jay Daniels and Kyler Murray. So like I feel like you got to have a piece of this game in some capacity, more likely than not to get to the top this week. Or if not, if you don't take a piece of this game and this game comes way under, you're going to shoot the moon. You're going to shoot the moon because I feel like every 75 to 80% of lineups are probably going to have some piece of this game in there. So like the best ways that you can get unique with it is, in my opinion, is to take the running backs. That doesn't mean that I don't play Jaden Daniels and or Kyler Murray with one of the running backs, but I think this is just like from a DFS perspective, this is the game right here. This is the game. As far as from like a win-loss perspective, man, like this one's really tough because I agree with you. I think the Cardinals they've looked really good. But I just think like there's always something to be said about these dynamic rookie quarterbacks that are in the same space as like, you know, a Jaden Daniels. I won't say Lamar Jackson because that wasn't his cup of tea when he first came in, right? But like quarterbacks that are transcending when they get the opportunity and they have the right pieces around them and they just give their teams confidence. One piece that I am really curious about to see how it plays into it is the Cliff Kingsbury piece and the familiarity with Kyler Murray and him being able to, you know, have some intel on him. And I think the same thing can be said about Kyler Murray and how Cliff Kingsbury goes about things. But I think Dan Quinn, obviously, defensive coach, right? And just to be able to be in the game is all the Commanders need. So from just a points perspective, this is a tough one, man, because like I really want to pick the Commanders to win, but I know like part of it is just that island game mentality. It's the last thing we've seen, or one of the last things we've seen was how they were able to, to handle the Cincinnati Bengals. And I would say probably the Cincinnati Bengals and the Arizona Cardinals are one of the same when you look at I don't want to say when you look at their roster, but just where they're at overall as a team. So I'll say give me the over on the game. If I had to pick straight up, I'm going to ride the wave, man. I'm going to ride the wave. Give me Jaden and the Commanders. I'm going to ride the wave.
Okay. I don't mind that.
This is going to be a good game. It's going to be so much fun, dude. This is going to be so much fun, man.
I don't mind it at all. Next game. We got a crap game.
Shit versus stink.
Shit versus stink is right. Look, man, like, yeah, we got the Browns, we got the Raiders. Yo, what I say about Watson? Watson has looked so terrible. Like, and again, like,
you ain't got to tell me about it, man.
Initially, I was starting to buy like he was going to potentially bounce back and everything.
Bounce back like a concrete cupcake.
But then like towards like end of July, I was starting to change my perspective. And it's just because like I knew the Browns wanted to throw the ball a lot more. But again, the injuries, back-to-back years, like, you know, of the shoulder, like him just not looking well. And then look, like just QBR wise, just been so terrible. Like it's just been bad. Like it's just been so bad, like for him. So in terms of Deshaun Watson, like I just told people like you could drop him unless you're in a super flex league. You have to, unless you have to start him, that would suck. But until he proves me otherwise, it's like it's something that I'm like, yo, like I just can't.
No.
The over-under seems about right because now there's no Devontae Adams, there's no Max Crosby for the Raiders. Like there's not a lot here for the Raiders, and they just lost the game against Carolina. So I really want nothing to do with this game, really. Probably gun in my head, I would probably take a Brock Bowers prop. And I might take something like this later on in the afternoon games for y'all on Twitter, but X, whatever. But what do you say about this game, Johnny? Again, no Devontae Adams kind of saddens me, but that's what it is.
Yeah, like it does sadden me. My Scott Fishbowl wide receiver, reoccurring theme here. But like, yeah. Oh man, I ain't even wearing my shit today too, man. No, I think like this is a really good game, man, just to see like, yo, this is a game that I think like Antonio Pierce is essentially pushing his cards to the table. Not so much with Max Crosby, but I think with Devontae Adams. I think we've all seen how disgruntled he is. If you watch the doc on Netflix Receivers, you've seen what losing was doing to him, right? So I think this is one of those situations where
do I ever?
I think this is one of those situations, right, where as the head coach, like this is a statement for him. But they do have some good young talent here. Trey Tucker, wide receiver. I'm okay with. I've been okay with working him into some of my DFS lineups as a cheaper play. And then, like you said, Brock Bowers, obviously at this point, I believe he's like the number 2 tight end in PPR right now, which is crazy. But I think there's that. And then, like, from the Browns perspective, I was looking at some wide receiver metrics earlier in the week. And even for as terrible as Deshaun Watson has been playing, Amari Cooper has still been someone who has been targeted at like an insane clip.
Say that I just traded him in a league.
Yeah, like he's been targeted like at an insane clip, right? So like I'm not advocating to play Deshaun Watson. I think like if you're in a GPP, obviously you can play Amari Cooper. But like at some point, like I think like he's gonna have obviously a blow up game. But man, like what a nightmare for this team. Nick Chubb, seen some stuff like they're looking at bringing him back potentially, or he's being evaluated next week, I believe, or something like that right there. So that's gonna even muddy up the backfield even more.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders' backfield is muddied up as well. No Njoku for Cleveland. Just give me the team defenses or the kickers, man, and let me get out of here for sure. Like that's what I'll do. I'll do that right there. Give me the under because it's shit versus stink, like we said. That's all I got, man. There ain't nobody. I'm like, if there anybody, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, potentially Amari Cooper, as plays for me as far as DFS goes.
Cool, makes sense. Next game. Defending Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs, go into LA, take on the Chargers. Chiefs are undefeated somehow, some way. They are a 7-point road favorites going into LA. Over under is 41.5 for the Chargers. Injuries like for the Chargers are already starting to stack up, and it just seems like they just are one of the
every year, bro,
year by year that gets bitten by the injury bug.
How you think our boy John's doing right now, man? He's probably ready to like.
Oof. Yeah.
He's
probably ready to turn the TV off and go play golf for as much as he can, potentially. I don't know. But yeah, like just Slater's gonna be out, Alt's gonna be out, like Bosa's gonna be out. Like it's just
Rashawn, yeah.
So that's Herbert's playing. Herbert's playing, by the way. Herbert's playing. I didn't think he was gonna play, honestly.
Neither did
but Herbert's playing this week. So they'll have an opportunity to at least be competitive in this game.
Oh, no, I don't think Joe Alt's playing either, man. That's another one.
That's why I said Joe Alt's out, Slater's out, Bosa's out. And that's bad. Both of your tackles and one of your best defensive rushers. And you don't have freaking Derwin James this week because they suspended him for player safety rule or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. So now you're missing your best safety, one of your best pass rushers, and now 2 of your bookends. Whew. Start your Chiefs defense, baby.
Yeah, I was about to say, why not?
Start your Chiefs defenses.
Why not?
Look, I've been getting impressed. If Mahomes should be still worthy of playing, or not. Look, again, still early on in the season, and I think better days are upon us for Mahomes. He's definitely a GPP play today, this week, 7,100 on DraftKings, because Mahomes is going to be one of those guys that he listens to it. He listens, by the way. And
he probably listens to our show. Probably.
If I know anything about Mahomes, this is probably the bounce back game today. For Mahomes, for Rice. Well, Rice already been doing well, and then Kelsey, as well. So I mean, look, like I didn't take any Kelsey props, but I did take Rashee Rice over 73.5 receiving yards. Look, the Chargers defense now they're missing Derwin James. Now they're missing Bosa. What did I say? Now it's all right. This team in general, like they've allowed in terms of passing, they've only played Bryce Young, Minshew, and Fields. The Chargers have had the third highest pass completion percentage in the NFL against those QBs. Now they get Patrick Mahomes.
Suey.
Do it that with what you will, people. But I'm gonna take Rice. I'm gonna look at the Kelsey line. I'll probably take that as well. Because look, in order for this Chiefs offense to really be the Chiefs offense again, Kelsey's gonna have to break this spell of whatever is going on with him. But that's where I stand on this game. What do you say, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to get away from the Chiefs. The only way, I think, you even look in a different direction. Obviously, there's the narrative of division football game, right? And this is a different dynamic with Harbaugh at the helm. So I'm curious to see how this goes, because if I'm Harbaugh, he's probably really obviously beating the underdog drum with that team. Although I just think, from a personnel perspective, like you said, there's a lot of your best at these positions aren't playing. And when you're playing the Chiefs, you need that. I almost wonder as well with the Chiefs, is this a game where you attempt to try to get your running game back on track and obviously try to make sure that you're not putting Patrick Mahomes in any type of unnecessary situations. And if they can establish the run in this game, do they just go ahead and do that? And Patrick Mahomes throws the ball 28 times for 200 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns. Don't know. Rashee Rice has obviously been the sweetheart of this year. When you talk about fantasy football, between him and Malik Neighbors have been probably the 2 biggest guys. That's one I think the 2 of us both can take a victory lap on for sure. But yeah, man, give me the Chiefs all day long, man, in this setting for sure. I think obviously I think the thing that's going to be really unique about this, right? We know what the Chargers want to do. They want to run the football. And that's the best. That is the best defense against Patrick Mahomes, is to keep him off the field and to run the football. So I think J.K. Dobbins gets a lot of work today. I don't know if he goes anywhere with it, because of Chris Jones and the fellas up front. But overall, man, I like the Rashee Rice prop for sure. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs, man.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, it's pretty simple. On how we see it. I don't understand that. We're interested to see what Harbaugh is going to do here. I just think Chargers, they're going to have any type of way to win this game. They're going to have to go back to throwing the football. And I think some of these lines for the Chargers are a little too low for that matter, because again, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball as easily as they probably want to. So for this game in particular, I'm looking to see if what the line, they're all receivers are between QJ, McLaughlin, they're all around 40 yards. Yeah. So do that what you will. I think this is something that I probably will cook up for the later game. So it's like a SGP parlay for people or something like that if I end up playing it. But those are some guys that I'm especially Ladd, who again should get the ball a lot more in space and stuff like that if they're gonna be playing quick throw instead of running the ball enough.
Gotta have to, man. That's a good play. They're gonna have to.
So I think what I'm looking at probably to do that best on is probably DraftKings lineup wise, because I think people aren't gonna be as keen on that. 4,800 for Ladd. I just think he's definitely the possession receiver, if anything else. If they end up going from the quick play, I think that's a leverage off the field. So I definitely like that play in a game environment where, again, over under 41.5. It's hard to take because we don't know exactly what the Chargers offensive line is definitely going to look like.
And Justin Herbert's health.
Joel's still questionable. I just saw. Yeah. So I think he's probably towards the doubtful side of questionable versus the probable side. But even if he plays, it's still gonna be a long day for this Chargers line and that Chargers defense. So I guess gun to my head, I would say 41.5 over, because this is the divisional game. I think the Chiefs want to make a statement. They are 7 favored team already on the road. I don't usually like backing the Chiefs points, spread wise, but I'm gonna take them here on the road. I just think this is a statement game where even though this team's 3-0, they're not getting not only respect from most people around the league, but I think inside those chambers, they're we got to get Travis Kelce involved this game. We got to get involved in the division game. We got to get these guys. Andy Reid's definitely cooking up some things this week for this game, in a divisional game, in a game where they're hearing the talk. They probably may not care as much. This could be just another game where it's, again, another Mahomes, underwhelming game, and they end up beating this team by 10 points pretty easily. Yeah. It could be that again, but I'm banking I'm banking. And not only the Chiefs covered this game, but they not only covered over, but they also put the stomp down in the Chargers.
Okay.
I just think there's a game where this is just a game where it can just get ugly pretty quickly, potentially. Again, no Derwin James, no Joey Bosa on defensive side. It's just gonna be a long game. Sunday Night Football game, which I'm really looking forward to this matchup to watch.
Same.
Maybe some bets, but just to watch, honestly. I didn't add it to my prop line, but I'm gonna bet it now because what is it? It's pretty much just been a staple for the last couple of weeks. It seems way too easy the last time I looked at the line. But it's Josh Allen over 31.5 rush yards. Like, this has just been an easy button so far for me this year. So I'm definitely taking that. I'm adding that to the prop shop list. Just too much. Again, even when they blew out Jacksonville last week, Allen still got there. So, I just think that in terms of in a game where I expect potentially Buffalo to play from behind, potentially. I do think Josh Allen. Oh, it's 29.5 now. Excuse me, on FanDuel.
Oh,
so
wow.
get that line. Get that line for sure. Get that line for sure. Lamar is 58.5. So I mean, it's Lamar. I mean, if you're gonna take it, take it. I would probably lean towards Derrick Henry's side if you're gonna take that one. 68.5 rush yards. I know Buffalo's defense has looked impeccable. But I think this is a game where Baltimore is going to get up for it. They're at home. They not only want to make sure that they are in contention for the AFC, but this is a statement win for either of these squads. Whoever wins is definitely a statement game. If Buffalo wins, they not only told me to shut the fuck up, because I told Buffalo they probably want to make the playoffs. They told me to shut the hell up. You lowly Jets fan. They told Baltimore that they're out to conquer the conference. This is a big game for Baltimore, I feel. Right now, in terms of where both teams stand. So Ravens are getting the -2.5. I mean, so it's kind of intriguing. It's kind of intriguing how Vegas sees that. It makes me kind of scratch my beard a little bit, What do you feel, Johnny? How do you picture?
It doesn't make me scratch my beard. I think it's one of those things, right, where it's name recognition. Because even if we think about last week, Dallas Cowboys came back and made that a football game, and they had no business being there. This is not the same Baltimore Raven team.
No, it's not. I'm scratching my head at the line. Why are they favored?
Right.
Why are they favored?
Right. But I think that's why, right? Like, I mean, I should say that's why, but like obviously most teams get 3 at home. We're 2.5 right now. And I think I think the public takes the Ravens at home simply because, again, name recognition, familiarity, past tense stuff. But I'll say it again, man. Like I've been saying it for the last 3 weeks. The Buffalo Bills, they are for real, and they look like a really good football team. Specifically on the defensive side of the ball, they've looked better than they have. We talked about it on Tuesday on both shows about how I've been impressed with them for the last 3 weeks on the defensive side of the ball. I do think this week is going to be tough sledding for James Cook, potentially. I think it's going to be tougher for him. But I think like right now, like you see, the Bills are more of a balanced team. And I think sometimes like that's one thing, like for fantasy managers, we put on our fantasy lens and like we need those superstar players or those star players, right? But like from a real life football perspective, it's tougher to defend. And you think about the Ravens and just where they're at, like this is a must-win game for them early on because all of a sudden, God knows what happens with Cleveland and Vegas, right? Cincinnati's got a game, a very winnable football game. The Steelers should win, and now all of a sudden, if the Ravens start off the year 1-3, whoa, Shaggy. And then like 2, right? Like the Derrick Henry experiment is not working the way that we all thought it was going to work. Like we thought like this whole situation was going to look different, and they still don't have anything from a receiver side of things. Like Zay Flowers is probably averaging like a -3 3 yards for his A dot for all the screens that he's getting. And there's no one else is stepping up to the plate. Mark Andrews, obviously, like everybody is on edge about him. Isaiah Likely, our week 1 guy, my week 1 guy, for waivers has been a no-call, no-show for the last 2 weeks, but it's still one of the top 10 tight ends, just to go to show you what kind of wasteland it is out there. And then Dalton Kincaid, man, he finally woke up. So, like, for me, I'm going to take the Ravens. I mean, not the Ravens. I'm going to take the Bills, man, just because I think, like, the Ravens still have a lot of questions up front on their offensive line. And then Josh Allen is not a guy that you want to be hanging around at the end of football games. And I think this Bills team has an insane amount of confidence right now. They're playing. They literally look like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, while the Baltimore Ravens are still trying to find an identity on the offensive side of the ball. So give me the Bills and the points for sure. I think that's an easy layup for me, man, to take.
Yeah, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. It sounds a little trappy though that the Bills are getting like plus 2.5. It's just really trappy just by the way they've played. I know they haven't played like the head honchos per se, and Baltimore somewhat proved themselves in a way, but they also, again, I just didn't like how they controlled the rest of that game that they were up in Dallas on the road. You should be making a statement game, which you did for almost 3 quarters, but then you kind of fumbled it around the 4th and almost lost the game. But I agree with you 100%. I think Baltimore is definitely trying to find still their identity from offensive line to player personnel offensively. I don't understand what's happening with not getting the ball to Mark Andrews. There's something, again, that's been my mystery question of the week. Is like Mark Andrews only got 1 target in that Dallas game, and I get it. Lamar only had to throw 18 times or whatever. But I felt that I think Dallas should have made that more of a game. They kind of did late, but thanks for not hitting my prop, Lamar. But
he don't care about your prop. He didn't even want to be on Instagram when Marlon Humphrey was trying to talk about them coming back and get a win, man.
Right. The tape speaks for itself. Buffalo's a lot more of a complete team right now on tape and overall just player personnel. They know what they're doing. And in situations where they are behind, we all know what Josh Allen is capable of doing. Lamar, if Baltimore gets behind this game at home, like it could just spell trouble for them. Because where does the ball go offensively through the air? Like Zay Flowers, you know what I'm saying? Like Isaiah Likely, like you're hoping that Mark Andrews finds a way to get involved more in this game. But there's something else going on where Harbaugh is saying that in the middle of the week, he was saying that he was basically saying Mark Andrews has kind of been like, he's still getting, in a way, he was basically saying he was still kind of getting through to some of the stuff that they've been doing and whatnot. And again, this offensive line's in shambles. So again, like I just take Buffalo here. I'm gonna take the points in Buffalo. I'll take the money line as well. I just think that they're more of a complete team right now. I think they have the capability of stopping Lamar as well. And as they stop that run game to Baltimore, they become very one-dimensional. Lamar could do some things. Lamar could do some things through the air.
Know that.
But it's also like, again, like outside of his short area receivers and Flowers and Likely and Andrews, does Bateman get deep? Did Nelson Aguilar do something? Because he did that last week. But again, they become very one-dimensional and they become very easy and predictable to stop. 2 games on Monday night, and then we'll get to the final segments of our show. Monday Night Football. Winless Titans going into Miami. Over under 37. Miami Dolphins.
I just got to say this. The only thing worse than having Deshaun Watson as your quarterback in a super flex league is having Will Levis as your starting quarterback in a super flex league.
Want to trade?
Wow.
You got it. Wow. You got a trade. I sent you another trade in another league. So
yeah, no, I seen it. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh,
child, please.
Oh, wow. Well then. Anyhow, what are your thoughts on this Monday Night Football matchup between Titans and the Dolphins? I'm gonna come from a biased point of view, so go ahead.
Man, like I look at this, like the one thing like I'm actually interested in seeing is how Snoop does with this Dolphins offense, right? Obviously, we know you're a big Devon Achane guy, so obviously to see like what
even though I'm a Jets fan, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. That's why you're. I don't want to give you too much credit because it'll go to your head. But that's why you're an okay fantasy manager, because you can remove yourself from both of those things.
I think you have to.
Yeah,
if you want to actually be
still
biased,
a lot of time. But no, I'm interested to see how this goes, right? Because I think like the one thing the one thing that's going to make this really unique to me, I think, obviously, is like the mobility dynamic for Snoop. And anytime this has always been a thing. Anytime you have a quarterback that's mobile, that always opens up the field for potential big plays downfield. And you have the two best players in the NFL on the outside for big plays in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And I think you will see them try to make it a point to get Tyreek Hill involved for sure. The Titans, I just think like this is not going how everyone had envisioned it. I think like the scheme, Will Levis looked really great, like those handful of games at the back end of the year where he came in and played quarterback. But I think we're in a place now where it's like, is Mason Rudolph a better play at this point? Like, is he a better play than Will Levis? And I think, like, if they don't win this game and you're in Tennessee, like, you really got to start, like, you got to start taking a hard look at things, man, because at this point, like, they're not married to anybody at the quarterback position. They went out and made some splashes in free agency. You get Tony Pollard, who's a guy that, man, I will say I was completely wrong about him this season for sure, but he's looked really good. Calvin Ridley, when he's had the opportunity, has looked really good. He's another guy that, went later on in drafts, but he's somebody that I have a lot of. And I still believe in him as a player and as a talent. But, like, when you pay a receiver that much money, you can't even get him the football, that clearly is a problem. So for me, I think this is a game, like, call me crazy, but I think this is a game that could very easily hit the over. I think 37 is really low. I think 37 is a number that, like, says that what's his name, Skylar Thompson or Boyle is playing quarterback, but I don't think that's the case for the Dolphins. We know Tyreek Hill and that crew, man, all it takes is one or two, and even with Devon Achane, right, same deal, man. That guy could very easily go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and everybody would be like, yeah, I can see that being a thing for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Dolphins, long story short, Dolphins,
long story short, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I'll probably take Miami as well. Tyler Huntley coming in definitely changed the situation for Miami. If you told me Skylar Thompson was starting again, because he's still questionable, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take Tennessee.
Yeah.
I just don't see, like, Will Levis doing enough here offensively right now. It's been really weird for him. Like, there was a lot of hype for Will Levis. I bought into some of it for sure, as in him being a better QB with a better, coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
And that's where, again, like, I'm not sure what's happening here with Brian Callahan and this team. But I don't know if Will Levis is the answer. Like, it's just like he's just found ways to kind of be, he looked better against the Packers last week, 260 passing yards at 76% completion percentage. So that gives you some hope. But in terms of, like, how he's, like, Ben looked, against, more inferior defenses, it's been pretty bad. So Miami, it's another one of those games where this game could easily just be like, a game where this could be trapped for Miami because they're already down to if they don't score enough points in this game, this could be a game where Tennessee could somehow find a way to get back in the game. They do have some, comparable pieces like Tony Pollard and, Calvin Ridley and stuff like that. If Will Levis can just find anything and more of what he did last week, where he didn't, where he just has a turnover problem. Already 5 interceptions on the season. So it's like the only thing with Will Levis is they need to make sure that if the game plan is for Tennessee to somehow get this matchup done, if they have any hope to win this game, the turnovers cannot happen. I mean, that's easier said than done, but it's 5 interceptions already on the year. 2 games with at least 2 interceptions, in games where, again, Tennessee was up 17-0. So that's where, again, like, I don't know. Is Will Levis going to be the guy that we can, hedge our wagon on? I just don't know. Man, I think Miami is enough of a team to get things done with Achane and, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, of course. Tyreek Hill has been an afterthought. People are freaking just flipping out on screaming, like, just selling Tyreek Hill so low.
Just imagine if your team was 3-0 and you had Tyreek Hill.
God. It's crazy.
Draft night out, baby. Let's go.
I mean, oh yeah. Good call. So many leagues. We're in like at least 3 of them.
Yeah, for
Four,
sure.
technically. But anyhow, I'm taking the Miami Dolphins. I just think that Miami somehow gets a win here with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, and we know Tyler Huntley, a Pro Bowl quarterback, but he is at least the best QB on their roster right now in terms of looking to run with the ball. They'll probably have to change some things for him playbook wise this upcoming week on Monday, but I do expect Miami to get it done. Last game before we get into final thoughts for everything week 4, we got Seattle getting a +3.5 on the road going into Detroit, one of the loudest places to play in the NFL. Over right now is 46.5. Like I said, Seahawks are getting +3.5. Johnny, what do you say about this game overall?
Well, first of all, I'm welcoming back one of my staples to my fantasy teams, Ken Walker. I'm welcoming him back with open arms this week.
Oh, he's a staple of your team. Oh,
yeah, one of. I said one of. We're team. One of. Yeah. If you, so I'm pretty sure you can read between the lines on that trade.
You say you want my offer, bro. It's a fair offer.
I don't want your
say
offer.
You don't want that. All right,
I don't
perfect.
want your offer.
Why don't you count on it? Let's see what's going on with that.
All right. Yeah, I think this is a game here, man. For me, I think Seattle's obviously they're away from home. Seattle has played. They've played some good games on the road, man. I shouldn't say good games, but on the road, like obviously they're 3-0. But I think the Lions. This is definitely a game that like the Detroit Lions should win. I think this game falls more to their wheelhouse. Obviously, being at home, being able to run the football, man. Aiden Hutchinson, man, that guy and that defense. Aiden Hutchinson is. He's one of my favorite defensive players, man. I think last year I took a prop for him to be Defensive Player of the Year. I think he has that kind of pedigree. Unfortunately, there's this guy named TJ that plays in Pittsburgh that makes it really difficult. But outside of that, like Aiden Hutchinson, man, like that dude is a baller, man. And I just think like what he's able to do and what he's able to bring to that team. This is also around the time like last year when we started to see Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't want to say get going because he's been really solid already this year for sure. But I just think like we're at a place, man, where like the Lions are at home. It's Monday Night Football. It's going to be rowdy. And I think the Seahawks, I don't know the level of competition that they've played so far because they played New England. They played New England, Denver, and oh God, I can't remember who the other team is. New England and Denver are the two teams that they've played. So they haven't really played against elite competition. I'll be able to go back and find it. But but like that's my whole thing is like I think this is the first true test. Yeah, this is the first true test.
You rightly predicted them to smack Miami, which it is.
Yeah, this is the first real test that they're gonna get. And I think they're going to see that, like, while they may be in the catbird seat for the NFC West, I don't think they're on the same level as the Detroit Lions. So give me the Lions this week for sure, straight up. And then I would actually take the over because I could definitely see this being a game where both offenses put points on the board. Big rub in that offense, they're going to throw the ball. The Seahawks are obviously getting Ken Walker back. But these are also games as well on Monday night. These island games are games where teams of similar stature, the underdog can't pull out. But I'm going to take the Lions, man, because like I said, I just don't think the Seahawks have been tested yet.
I would just tend to agree. I'll probably take Detroit as well at home. The 3.5 is interesting though, because for Seattle, they've been in pretty tight games, and then they had that nice blowout against Miami. But I agree, I don't think they've really been truly tested just yet, both defensively and offensively. They've been playing some somewhat cupcake matchups on paper. Detroit now, they're going into Detroit. There's a team that overall, Detroit's kind of had their number of the last couple of years in general. I just think Detroit, they know that they're playing a team and undefeated team in Seattle so far. But again, just haven't really been tested. Taking Detroit, taking the points, taking the over as well. We got a question. Jacqueline, what's up? I have to sit one of these guys. Gibbs, Connor, Henry, Evans. Is that Mike Evans? And more Metcalf. Jesus. What the heck? What kind of league you in? 8-person league? Jeez. Yo. Also Kmet or Laporta. Well, Laporta, and that's
we can answer that one quick.
That's no question. That's no question about it. Look, don't get so caught up with last week with Kmet. I felt that, again, Caleb Williams, I talked about earlier, he threw the ball over 55 times last week. Like, that's an outlier. Don't expect that again. Kmet could probably still score a touchdown but I wouldn't expect him to have another blow up game like that anytime soon. But if he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. I still want Laporta. Have to sit one of these guys, and yes, they play an 8-person league, of course. I'm probably sitting Connor, just because I think people are listen. I think Evans gets a great matchup against the Eagles, who are 29th in DVOA. Metcalf should be a high scoring environment we just talked about. Detroit playing again, like, a great DVOA matchup. Henry, who easily could get scripted out, but I think Henry can still give you great starter value. I just think Connor, like, I just don't know. I just think, like I said, Washington's better against the run. So unless Connor's getting a bunch of checkdowns and everything, then yeah. But Gibbs for me is still a starter guy. I'm not getting phased by the Montgomery stuff. In fact, I'm actually glad that it's happening this way, so I can buy him low. And also, like, because again with Gibbs, we knew this was going to happen in some type of way. Dan Gamble likes to run between the tackles with Montgomery and stuff, but Gibbs is going to get a lot more stuff. He's still producing pretty well. So everybody's still freaking out for no reason because they think Gibbs is not going to be the guy or whatever. It's like, look, you want Montgomery still as well. You don't want him on the same team, obviously, but it's like, again, like, I think Gibbs is still a guy that could still finish as a top 5 running back. But what do you say, Johnny, to the question?
Yeah, I think I like Connor this week. I just think, like, it's really hard for me to sit James Conner in a game that has all this shootout potential. It's really hard for me to do that. I think I actually have a team where my draft night out team where I have Connor and Henry. But like, if you believe in the Buffalo Bills or you think the Bills are going to win, like I do, like, to your point, like we've already seen it kind of happen where Henry gets scripted out. I think this is kind of one of the tough parts about being, in an 8-team league is that, these are all outstanding options. I agree with Gibbs, with Nick, play Gibbs, play Metcalf. And then I think it comes down between, for me, it comes down between Connor and Henry in this situation for sure. And I think it's one of those things where, like, you have the ability, with the exception of Gibbs and Metcalf, who play on Monday night, you have the ability, and Henry plays on Sunday night football. So Connor at the 4:00 game, Mike Evans, you play, and maybe just fill it out and see, like, what your opponent does. But for me, I just have a hard time sitting James Conner, man, in a game that's got almost a 50-point implied total, bro. Like, what? Yeah, like, and no Trey McBride, man. Like, it's I don't know, man. That's I have a hard time with that. And if I'm sitting anybody, it's probably either Henry or Evans, man, and that's sickening. That's sickening. I know you just like Connor to be the scapegoat for everything. You've been shitting on James Conner since August, so.
Nah.
Yeah,
not
right.
Really.
Yeah,
I'm giving some
right.
credit to him, but not enough as what you would want. So, but it is what it is. So we got prop shop to drop. So I'm gonna drop those now. Like I said, we're 13-10 on the year. Final drops for the props. We got Najee Harris over 64.5 rushing yards. We have Stephon Diggs over 5.5 receptions. We have Aaron Jones over 59.5 rush yards. We have ETN over 74.5 rush and receiving yards. Zach Moss over 52.5 rush yards. We have Jaden Reed over 48.5 receiving yards. We have Barkley over 104.5 rushing receiving yards. We have MSJ over 71.5 receiving yards. Rice over 73.5 receiving yards. We got Chase over 71.5 receiving yards. Kirk Cousins over 220 passing yards. And last but not least, I shared this with my guy John already, and I'm going to share it with all of you. We have an anytime touchdown parlay between Barkley, Kyron, Breece Hall, MSJ, and Jordan Mason. Feel free to mix and match if you guys want to take those straights or not, or parlay 2 or 3, whatever. Do a little round robin if you want, but I'm taking them all for hopefully a healthy payout today. What are your locks of the slate overall, Johnny, in terms of who you want for DFS lineups, who you might be building around this week?
Jaden Reed is definitely a guy that, like, I'm definitely buying for sure. I like him, man. I think, like, his price is, like, he's crazy undervalued right now. Like I talked about, I'll take either one of the running backs from the Arizona Washington game, just to get different in whatever capacity, because there's going to be so much there. And then like at tight end, I think Kyle Pitts this week. I'll definitely subscribe to that. Rashee Rice, another player that, again, I think he's still too cheap. Probably, again, like he's probably going to end up being wide receiver 2, 3, in the top 5. So give me Rashee Rice, give me Jaden Reed, give me one of the running backs from the Arizona Washington game. Give me Kyle Pitts. And then from a running back standpoint, obviously my guy, my fantasy MVP, Saquon Barkley, who's coming in damn near under 5%. Those are players that I really love. Obviously, I can't squeeze all of them into my lineup, so they're going to be mixed and matched at different parts of the day for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, that makes sense. My locks of the slate are pretty simple. I'm going to go with Jefferson, Barkley, and Ladd McConkey. I think Ladd is going to be someone that's going to be very low owned, 4,800 on DraftKings. And again, based on how the Chargers should come about, like in this game, we're expecting them to eventually throw the ball. So I think they should get some easy dunks and targets to Ladd. And way he should easily pay off this 4,800 price tag. We're looking to pay off this price tag. We're going to need at least, if I'm not mistaken, 16 points.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. If I do the math right. So, so basically 14.4, 15. I think Ladd can get to 18 in this matchup because they could just continually, instead of running the ball, they can easily check him down. He's not going to cost you anything in terms of that goes. And again, from ownership perspective, he's definitely a pivot off. I definitely love building around Deontay Johnson as well. He just didn't make my lock list, but he's someone I definitely want to plug as well.
Oh, my other guy left off the list too, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Smash spot.
And it's just like when it comes to leverage, it's like, who can I get on leverage? And Jefferson, Barkley makes sense when it comes from an ownership perspective. They know these guys have high ceilings in terms of that goes. I think Deontay Johnson, again, like he proved to us last week that he has that mega cojones ceiling, 30 points almost last week. And I just think that's someone that even at 5,600, you definitely want to build around. For a guy in that mid tier where, I mean, you could play Terry McLaurin, same thing for a few hundred more. But there's a tier of 7K receivers, your MHJs, your Rices, and stuff like that. But those games, I can still see scenarios where these guys can not exactly not produce, but it's more about just like those games can be swayed in ways in which Arizona could easily come out and put down on Washington early. Same thing for the Chiefs too, but I just think the Chargers are going to find a way to get Ladd the ball. That's where I stand overall in terms of this going on. But any final thoughts, Johnny, overall?
No, man, just excited to see a lot of these division games for sure. And then just keeping a close eye on these winless teams and these one-win teams that a lot of people threw down money on and had big hopes for. Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens, specifically Jacksonville Jaguars. Interested to see how they shake out this week on the other side of things.
That makes sense. I missed something. Josh Allen, if you didn't get it already, check FanDuel. Last time I checked, it was 59.5 rush yards for Josh Allen. That should be an easy smash for the last play of the props. But yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Week 5, be on the lookout. Week 5 bye week start, man. Go ahead and start getting your roster prepared for that right there. So we still got a little bit of time before things close. If you can make any type of moves or anything like that to get yourself in a really good situation from a roster side of things.
Eagles on bye next week. Titans on bye next week. Who else is on bye next week? I think that was it. In terms of bye weeks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check real quick. No, so Lions and Chargers also on bye next week.
Yeah.
And then week after that, I believe it is the Dolphins. So Dolphins, Vikings, Rams, and Chiefs will be on week 6 bye. We'll get to that overall in terms of adding that information in for the Tuesday show, which is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, the waiver wire, trade advices, breaking everything that happened from this past slate's games. So that being said, follow us on Twitter, follow the channel on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel, please. Tell a friend. Tell us, if we're doing great work, if we're not, if we want to see something different a little bit. Hey, if you want to be on this show, you got some things you want to say, feel free to say that to us as well. But at Nick_Wilcox25, you got Johnny Main at Johnny Main at 37185. And he tells me all the time, and I'll say it for him, go UT.
That's it, baby. That's it.
That being said, we'll see you guys on Tuesday, and we look forward to seeing you guys then.
Peace. We out.